Jaya Nitya Gauranga Nitya Gauranga Jaya Nitya Jaya Prahlad Shima Jaya Prahlad Shima Jaya Prahlad Shima
Jaya Prahlad Singha Jaya Prahlad Singha Jaya Prahlad
Shima Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtottara Sadhi Hey Shivan Grace Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vranda Ki Jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati-thama shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter number 14, text number 33. Titi tu vridita tena ditistu vriditattena ditistu vriditattena karmavadyena Bharata Karmavadyena Bharata Karmavadyena Bharata Upasangamya Viprashim Upasangamya Viprashim Upasangamya Viprashrim Adho Mukhi Adhyabhasata Adho Mukhi Adhyabhasata Adho Mukhi Abhyabhasata Dhitishtu Vridhitattena Karmavadhyena Bharata Upasangamya Viprashim Adhomukhi Abhyabhasata Dhitistu Vridhitattena Karmavadhyena Bharata Upasangamya Viprashim Adhomukhi Abhyabhasata Dhitistu Vridhitattena Karmavadhyena Bharata Upasangamya Viprashim Adhomukhi Abhyabhasata दिदेषु प्रीडितत्तेन कर्मावध्येन भारत उपसंयम्य विप्रर्षिम् अधोमुखी अभ्यभाषत दिदेषु प्रीडितत्तेन कर्मबाधेन भारत अपसंगम्य विप्रर्षिम् अधोमुखी अभ्यभाषता. What word meaning? Ditihi, Diti, the wife of Kashyapa. So, but Pridita, ashamed, Tena, by that, Karma, act, Avadhyena, faulty, Bharata, O son of Bharata, O son of Bharata family. Upasangamya, going near to Vipra Rishim, the Brahmana sage. Adhaha, Adhaha Mukhi, with her face lowered. Abhyabhashata, politely said. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation: son of Bharata family. Diti after this went nearer to her husband, her face was lowered because of her faulty action. She spoke as follows. Translation with repetition. O son of Bharata family, Diti, after this, went near to her husband, her face lowered because of her faulty action. She spoke as follows. Purport: when one is ashamed of an abominable action, one naturally becomes down-faced. Diti came to her senses after the abominable sexual intercourse with her husband. Such sexual intercourse is condemned as prostitution. In other words, sex life with one's wife is equal to prostitution if the regulations are not properly followed. The sense of Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshulmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnubadhaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This is a verse from pregnancy of Diti in the evening. Maitreya Muni explaining about how Diti forced her husband Kashyapa in the not proper time. This already in many verses Maitreya Muni is telling about In the evening, the ghosts are moving around. And also Lord Shiva, who is the Bhutanatha, is the owner of the head of the ghost, also be seen. And even Kashyapa Muni is telling to Diti that it's not the proper time. Finally, Diti was thus informed her husband, but she is pressed her by Cupid for sexual satisfaction. She caught hold of the clothing of a great Brahmana sage, just like a shameless public prostitute. So finally, the Diti is caught hold of the Brahmana sage's cloth, just like a prostitute. Further, it say, understanding the wife's purpose, he was obliged to perform the forbidden act. So Kashyapa, as forced by his wife, and Kashyapa performed the forbidden act, and thus after offering his obeisances unto the worshipable fate, he lay with her in a secluded place. So Kashyapa Muni respected the fate and went to a secluded place to have sex. After the sex, Kashyapa Muni, thereafter, the Brahmana took his bath in the water and controlled his speech by practicing trance, meditating on the eternal effulgence and chanting the holy Gayatri hymns within his mouth. So, after forbidden act. So, why it is forbidden act here? You see, because Kashyapa knows that was not right time. So it is not that husband wife can have sex. It is not forbidden. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Dharma avirdo kamasmi. That sex I myself, which is not against the religious principles. That means even a grihastha, generally we think, someone is grihastha, married person, mean he got the license to have sex. Prabhupada say, someone is not able to control on the sex, then is given a permission to get married. And that not mean that once anyone is get married, then he have the permission for the license for the sex at any time and every time. That's what we will understand from the Kashyapa's behavior. Kashyapa forced by Diti, and Kashyapa know this is the right time, because even to beget a children in Vedic culture, one should follow the sanskara. So Garbhadhana samskara is mentioned in the Vedic literature. Once the husband and wife is decided to get a child, and they fix a particular auspicious time to sex intercourse, only to beget a child. And even in Prabhupada introduced for the grihasthas, and sex only to beget children. It is not that sex anytime and every time for enjoyment. And such sex is said it's a prostitution. Even a grihastha having a sex with his own wife untimely, not the purpose of the begetting children, such sex is also a prostitution. You say, Prabhupada, see, such sexual intercourse is condemned as a prostitution. That means, so even a married person also follow the brahmacharya regulations. Only to beget a child, he should have the sex intercourse, and even for that, so because every action there is the three modes of nature is acting. Generally, the sexual act is Rajoguna. So in the Rajoguna is the sexual intercourse. Still, one to keep up his Sattva-guna. The Prabhupada introduced us in this Krishna conscious society. One should chant 50 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra on that particular day. One should decide to beget a child, so that his consciousness will be purified to some level. So he will be in little Sattva-guna. So one chant, both husband and wife both should chant 50 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra. Then they can have a sexual intercourse to beget a child. And a particular day also Prabhupada mentioned. So that means even grihasthas also should follow a brahmacharya rule. So that's the reason Prabhupada says, in Krishna conscious, if someone is strictly follow grihastha ashrama rules, he also a brahmachari. So when you say grihastha ashrama, ashrama means even a married life is to follow the spiritual practices. It is not simply misuse of the sex for one's own sense enjoyment. It is forbidden. So generally, here you see what Kashyapa Muni did is, after he understood that okay, I did a mistake, then afterwards to purify, he took a bath. After sexual intercourse, he took a bath. Then he went in a trance. Trance means he meditating the Gayatri mantra to purify his consciousness. When anyway, whatever the consciousness, Rajoguna, the sexual activity happens. Again, to elevate his consciousness, one should chant the mantra, Gayatri mantra, or in Krishna conscious we chant Hare Krishna mantra. So, which elevates one's consciousness. So here say, Prabhupada in the previous verse, anyone have the sexual intercourse, then we should clean sexual intercourse. One has to take bath after using toilet, and one has to wash himself with water after sexual intercourse. So cleanliness is one of the principle in devotional service, because so the modes of nature which also affect on our consciousness. If you go to the lower modes, it is the purification, the purity of the soul consciousness is reduced, come down. So here later on, so what the action of the Diti, Maitreya Muni is telling here, O Sanna Bharata, Diti after this went nearer to her husband. Her face was lowered, because any wrong activity someone is performed, naturally it is shameful. So she was lowered her face, and she understood this faulty action. So she spoke as follows. So here the very important things to understand how a person remain free from uh, thinking of the even for brahmacharis here brahmachari ashrama like grahastha ashrama, so sexual activities is not be permitted in any condition in the spiritual life, because the which contaminates one's consciousness, because he lower down to the uh, mode of fashion. So such forbidden action, if anyone is doing, such person is not suitable for the spiritual practices. Here, the example of Kashyapa Muni. Kashyapa, even though is a great sadhu, and but even such a person engaging in the sensual sexual activities, it is not very good. So now, how to even in the Krishna consciousness, a grahastha remain in the wife, and it's very difficult for him to control the sex desire. Now, Prabhupada already given the example of comparing Kashyapa Muni with the Haridas Thakura. Because Haridas Thakura was chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Even in the presence of the prostitute in front, Haridas Thakura is not affected, bewildered. Kashyapa Muni, his own wife, is forcing him, and he is not able to control himself because Kashyapa Muni is not the devotee. So one is strictly following the principles of devotion service. For him, it's very easy to control over the sex. Even for the proper devotion service, one should be very much enthusiastic. So, Rupa Goswami say, what are the things increases the devotion? So when the devotion is increased, so that you no need to separately control over the all these kind of fall downs. So what are the things increases Rupa Goswami say? So उत्साह निश्चया धैर्य तत्तत् कर्म प्रवर्तनात् संगत्याग ततो वृद्धे. These are the 6 things which Sadbhir Bhakti prasidhyati mean 6 things increases one's devotion. So once devotion is increased, automatically for him sense control is very, very easy. Because you see, Utsaha, one is remain very much enthusiastic in performing the devotion services. So these are correlated things. Now, Utsaha is required for performing the devotional service. And how to bring the Utsaha? The Utsaha is become, one is follow the regulatory principles properly. And the guidelines the Acharya has given, how one should follow the Vidhi Bhakti, regulated devotional services. If someone is strictly follow the order of the spiritual master and performing his duty in devotion service properly, then automatically his enthusiasm level will be high. The more important is 16 Ramsam Hare Krishna Japa, very consciously doing and following the 4 regulatory principles. This is a more important instruction what Prabhupada is in Krishna conscious, okay? Follow 4 regulatory principles, chant 16 Ramsam Hare Krishna mantra. And even the Hare Krishna mantra chanting, if someone is regularly do the chanting with a proper consciousness, then automatically it increases our enthusiasm do the devotional services. Very simple formula. Otherwise, there is no any formula, okay? Generally, they ask, okay, how to be enthusiastic. How to enthusiastic? Make any other things we can make enthusiastic to do, because any
no one want to do the services. General tendency. Okay, if someone is working in a company, you don't want to work in the company, hard work, but only you'll work because of getting the payment. Similarly, even the devotion service also is as good as work, but it is connected to the Krishna. But as far as a neophyte devotee, because we not experienced the real rasa in chanting, like Rupa Goswami was telling. So why only two tongues, one tongue and two ears? I want millions of tongues and ears to enjoy the Hare Krishna mantra. Similarly, when Haridas Thakur is asked by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you already liberated, you are Namacharya. For you, why to follow all these rules and regulations? Why you want to chant? And Haridas Thakur is telling, no, I cannot stop it. Haridas Thakur is to chant 3 lakhs holy names. And after the chanting, he permits, if the time permits, then only used to have some food, prasadam, and to take a little rest. Otherwise, he is not able to complete, no rest. Because why? Because they are getting the energy, they are getting the enthusiasm from chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So, for the neophyte, how? Because we are not experiencing, then for us, the devotion service is the Vidhi Bhakti. As Acharya say, the Prabhupada say, that's the reason I should do chanting very systematically. As he is instructed, what is the best? Best chanting is in the Brahma Murta. In the Brahma Murta, one should chant the Hare Krishna mantra. So, effect of chanting in the Brahma Murta is much, much superior than the any time completion of the mantra. Then otherwise we will feel that, okay, somehow I complete the mantras, that's all. Then we may not be taking interest in doing the devotion service much. Usaha, Nishchaya and determination. And one should follow the regulatory principles with the determination. And also, whatever the chanting should be done in time according to the schedule. So everything is to do, someone is doing the scheduled way, then automatically he is able to mitigate the suffering, the miseries of the material world. Krishna says, Yuktahara Viharascha Yukta Cheshtasya Karmasu Yukta Supnavabhavasya Supnavabhavasya. What is the next step? Yoga Bhavati Dukkhaha. So someone is regulated all these things, do regulation, then such person able to mitigate the miseries of this material world. So to follow the regulated way of living, one should have a lot of determination. Once the determination, you have a strong determination, then all these regulations, regulated way, lifestyle, if you adopt it, then everything will fall in line properly. Our chanting, getting up early in the morning, and having the prasadam in time, everything will happen in time. So, Nishya. So, these are the 6 activities and the 6 principles were very, very important for the devotion service. Rupa Goswami would say, Nishchaya, Dhairyat, patience. Okay, generally we think, okay, enthusiasm is coming. So for every result, even in the spiritual, even in the material world, the result to come, it takes a lot of time. Even in the material world, any action if you do, forget something, it takes time. Similarly in the spiritual life also, if any spiritual practices fructify to give the full result, it takes time. Okay, initially, okay, it may be boring, but I am patient, so can continue these regulator principles so that one day I'll be easily performing all these spiritual duties properly without any difficulties. One should have a patience. Continue the, not be tired of after some time to, okay, oh, it's not getting any result. Now I cannot continue. No, one should determine to continue. Dhairyat. Tat karma pravartanat. And acting according, here again same thing you see, acting according to the regulatory principles. Just to follow the acharyas what are given the principles. One is pravritti, one is nivritti. Pravritti mean, okay, I want some enjoyment, acting according to my own whims. And nivritti mean, okay, I'll act according to the acharya's instruction. Tat karma pravartanat. Sangatyagat, abandoning the association of the non-devotees. Too much talking with the non-devotees or thinking about the mundane activities, and anything is not connected to the devotion service, not involving. Abandoning the association of the non-devotees. Association devotees, don't think only association non-devotees. Even anything, the material things also comes under the Sangatyaga. Sato vrittehe, following the footsteps of the previous acharyas. What are the great acharyas has followed? Those footsteps will be followed by the devotees. Yadyadacharate shreshta tattattivataro janaha. What the great people are did, that path will be followed. So these are the 6 principles if you one follow. Then automatically Sadbhir bhakti prasidayati. One's devotion will be enhanced or it will be increased. Similarly, in the other way, if someone is doing the same, Rupa Goswami say, one is eating too much, accumulating money too much, over endeavoring for the mundane things, this is very difficult to attain. Talking unnecessary, same exact opposite, that unnecessary about the mundane subject matters. Practicing the spiritual rules as a namesake, niyamagraha, and association with worldly minded people, or being greedy for the mundane achievements. And these are the things one reduces the devotion for the Lord. So 6 things which are increases the devotion service, and same is the 6 things which are obstacle in the devotion service. Sadbhir bhakti pranishati atyahara prayasasya prajalpo niyamagraha janasangasya lavlyansya shadbhir bhakti vinashyati. These things are our devotion service will be get affected. So this is the way one can stop the fall down from the path of devotion service. So one to keep determined, one should be very enthusiastic and follow the regulatory principles properly and chant 16 rounds with a very conscious mind. Then one able to do the devotion services properly. One have to do the devotion service properly, such a person able to conquer over the sense forces. So very important lesson from these are the act of Kashyapa and Diti. Perhaps we may be thinking how a Kashyapa is such a man will be condemned here. So Kashyapa is given an example for us to learn from this. How a such exalted personality also would be fall down when he is not properly executed the devotion services. So if anyone perform the devotion service properly, because even the Prabhupada gives the example of Arjuna was a devotee. That is the reason when Urvashi is approaching the Arjuna, Arjuna is not fall down. Arjuna was very, very reluctant. So devotees are very determined. Determination comes from that because one who's a devotion service for the Lord is personally gives the protection to such people. If you engage in the Krishna service, one be free from the Maya's dictation. Okay? So, we should be very much enthusiastically perform the devotion service so that we'll be free from all this, the effect of sense pleasure. Okay? I'll stop here. Any questions? Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.